Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. At this time, I'm going to show you how I make anime hair just like the one you see on the screen. I will explain all the entire process in creating this anime hair. So, make sure watch it till the end. In this video, you'll learn how to modeling the hair, UV mapping the hair, texturing, shader setup, and you can also free download the hair for use it as guide and references when you're creating your own creation. And don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe my channel. I would greatly appreciate your support. First step, modeling the hair. I have set up the hair model sheet that I created in the scene. I will unhide a ready head mesh here, and soon I will start by creating the hair on the head mesh since we will focus on creating the hair for this video. Just for information, you can also find the video tutorial on how to easily create this head mesh from my previous video. The link on the description below. I'll start by creating a curve above the head. Select the path curve type. Then, duplicate this path and place it beside of the head. After that, delete the two end vertices, leaving only 3 vertices. Switch the view to the top viewport and shape it like this. Select all the vertices, right-click, go to Set Spline Type and choose Poly. Change to object mode and rotate the object 90 degrees like this. Remember, don't rotate the path in edit mode. Now, select the curve above the head. Go to Object Data Properties tab. On Bevel menu, select Object tab. Pick the curve bevel object. I rename this to Path Object 01. Change the shape resolution to 3. Duplicate the object path. Select 2 vertices and right-click. Select Subdivide to add 1 vertex between them. Add 1 vertex to the other side as well. Shape it like this. This second path object is optional and is only for dynamic effects only. You can use a single path object if you prefer. I rename this to Path Object 02. Select the path above the head and press Alt+C to enable X-ray view. Go to top right screen menu. Click this icon and enable the display of curve normals direction. Increase the intensity to see them clearly. Delete 2 vertices like this. This time rotate the curve in edit mode. Adjust the curve like this and make sure the curve normal direction flow is point downwards. Select the 2 ends vertices and use Alt+S to scale the curve. Then disable the display of curve normals direction. It's time to add more vertices to the curve, making it a total of 5 vertices in a curve. Hide the head mesh temporarily for a clearer view. Adjust the curve to match the image references. Select the topmost vertices. Press Shift+S and select cursor to select it. In object mode, select the curve and right-click, set origin, choose origin to 3D cursor. Duplicate the curve and rotate it. Now, with origin point in place, this will help maintain consistent root hair positions for each duplicate. On this curve, I'll be using path object number 2. This is optional, and I will use different path objects for some curves to add more variety. Remember, this is not limited to just 2 kind of path object. Feel free to use as many as you like. For me, personally planning to use around 5 to 6 different path objects throughout the entire hair modeling process. Add more vertices to the curve for longer hair curve. Carefully adjust the hair curves, using the reference image as a guide. I unhide the head mesh. Sometimes it's helpful to have it visible, while other times it's better to hide it. It will depend on the condition. I am going to mirror the hair to the other side. Select this hair curve, add a mirror modifier. Here's the trick. Create a box, rename it Mirror Object, select the hair curve, and use the box as the mirror object. Place the box in a hidden location, but make sure it doesn't move along the x-axis to ensure accurate mirroring. Select the other hair curves and lastly select Mirrored Hair Curve. Press Ctrl+L, choose Copy Modifier to link the mirror modifier into them as well. Don't forget to pay attention to the hair root. We need to tidy them up to get better result. From now on, since mostly I will do repetitive thing like duplicate and adjust the hair, so I will slightly increase the video playback speed temporarily to save your watch time. Don't worry, you can still follow along and I'll slow down the playback speed whenever I need to explain something in detail. This back bottom hair will use the third path object. Duplicate the path object 02 and adjust it like this. Press F key to connect the vertices. Once done, select the hair and pick the path object 03 from the list. Press Ctrl+T to rotate, tilt the curve. Let's create the back hair. We will start by create a UV sphere with setting of 18 segments and 10 rings. Position it behind the head, ensuring its x-axis value is 0 for precise alignment. Delete unnecessary parts of the sphere. Extrude the mesh and adjust the segment count by adding or deleting as needed to balance the poly counts of the hair mesh. I turn on sculpt mode. I just use grab brush to adjust the back hair shape. Pay attention to the hair roots. Here is the trick to make a hole on the root. Now, select each vertical edges only. Duplicate them, and press P to separate the duplicated edges from the sphere mesh. Delete the sphere mesh, and let the duplicated vertical edges stay remainings. I am going to create 2 new path objects for back hairs. Let's add more vertices to the curve's path, and then adjust the shape. Once the first done, duplicate it to create a new one. Rename the path object 04 and 05. Now, select the back hair edges, right-click and convert them into curves. Go to the Object Pick option and select the path object that just we created from the list. Press Alt+S to scale down the hair curves. I used proportional editing by press O. I added subdivision modifier to the hairs, and right-click then use Shade Smooth. I select one hair curve strand and press P to separate it. This will make it individual hair curve. Let's continue adjust them now. I'm applying the same technique to this side hair as I did for the back hair before. The modeling process overall have been done. Now, time to convert all of this curve into mesh. For mirrored the curve hair, I'll first remove the existing mirror modifier and convert the curve to a mesh. Then, I add a new mirror modifier into it. I also add subdivision surface. I remove mirror modifier on each hair curves and press Ctrl+L to link copy modifier to the first one. Then I hide converted hair mesh for a while. For non-mirror hair curves, I simply just convert it into mesh and give it subdivision surface into it. Then I will link copy modifier to the each hairs around. After that, hide them for a while as well. I'll repeat this process for the remaining hair strands. For some hair strands at back hairs later, I'll add seam marks to them for UV mapping. The hair and ribbon modeling process have been done. Now let's jump to next stage. Second step, UV mapping the hair. Select all hair strands, press U and unwrap it. But the hair UV are not facing in the one direction. But don't worry, here's the secret. Let's press U once again and select Smart UV Project this time. And do unwrap once again. Finally, all the hair UV facing same direction now. Next, I will to square up each hair UV. At the first hair UV, select horizontal edge, press S, Y, 0 then hit enter to make them align perfectly in vertical center. Apply this to the other side. Select vertical edge, press S, X, 0 then hit enter to make them align perfectly in horizontal center. Apply this to the other side as well. Select the perfectly polygon, press Ctrl+L, right-click, choose Follow Active Quads, and hit OK. Now, the first hair UV have been squared up. I will repeat this process to each hair strands, since it will take time. I will just fast forward the video playback speed to save your watch time. With this, UV mapping process has been done, let's go to next step. Third step, texturing the hair. I will be texturing the model using a different software. Please note that I will not explain how to operate this software. Instead, I'll show you on the fundamental concepts and techniques of texturing involved in process of texturing the model. So, later on, these concepts and techniques of texturing can be applied as well to your own favorite software. Let's begin. 1. Base color. I will start by give a red base color to the ribbon. And for hair, I give it light orange-yellow base color like this. 2. Shade color 1. I pick this darker color for shade color 1. I will add this darker color to the base color to create shadows. But before that, I do simply adjustment for some settings to make texturing easier, like selecting a brush that's suitable for hair texturing and enabling the wireframe mode with softer color. Then, I use the brush to add shading to the edges of each hair strand, assuming that light is coming from various directions and not specifying a single light source. This is because shadows typically fall on the edges of each hair strands, which are areas with more depth compared to the center of each hair strand. I'll repeat this process for each hair strand. To save your watch time, I give you an overview, and this quick overview should be good enough to show you how to texture the first shade color on the hair. And here is the result of the first shade color. 3. Shade color 2. I choose a color that's darker than the first shade to create more depth effects on certain parts of each hair strand. Here, I'm using a method where I simply just erase parts of the second shade color layer, which is a duplicate of the first shade color layer. In other words, I have two layers with the same brushed area but different colors, which is one that's a bit lighter and the other one is darker. By erasing parts of the dark layer and leaving those areas as lighter shadow makes me can control more to define where the darkest shadows are. I'll repeat this texturing shade color 2 as well for each hair strand. And here is the result of the second shade color. Four. Shade color 3. For this third shade color, I'm using a different technique. I involved an ambient occlusion map with some adjustments in the process. The ambient occlusion map will be adjusted to higher contrast. What you see here is black-white general masking system, with black representing invisible areas and white representing visible areas. I also use a brush to further refine some shading. I am just make some minor adjustments with the brush, as the ambient occlusion map will handle most of the shading based on hair density this time. For this time, I used Multiply as blending color type to make it applicable on both previous shade colors. And here is the result of the third shade color. 5. Shade color gradient. Honestly, I don't know what to call this shade color, but because the majority of shading comes from the color gradation system on this shade color, so I call it the gradient shade color. The technique is very simple. I mostly just play around with the setting to adjust the gradient on the hairs until get a satisfied gradient look. The purpose of this gradient shade color is to give a more dynamic effect by shading the entire hair area. And the principle is the closer area position to the root and tip of the entire hairs, the darker it will be, and the closer area position to middle of the entire hair, the brighter it will be. And here is the result of the gradient shade color. 6. Highlight color. There is not much explanation in this highlight step as it's the simplest step of all the hair texturing steps. I just do manually brush in creating the highlight. And as information, this highlight will be the last texturing step for the hair, but we still haven't textured the ribbon yet, so we'll do that next after this. And this is the result of hair texturing before applying any shader setup. For the ribbon, I will not use a brush. Instead, I will apply a similar technique as the third shade color of the hair texturing. I use an ambient occlusion map to create the shading and highlights for the ribbon with some adjustment setting and high contrast ambient occlusion map. Just for information, I created the ambient occlusion map earlier right before doing any texturing, but I am sorry I don't show it to you how to create this ambient occlusion map since I focused on the texturing process. But the good news is, it's very easy to create ambient occlusion map as it's created and generated by the system. What you need to do is just set the setting and hit create button, or in general it's called bake ambient occlusion map. And here is how I used ambient occlusion in creating the shading and the highlight. It's just a tricky way, but this helped so much in some case. And this is the result of texturing the ribbon. And get ready to the final step. Final step, shader setup. Back to Blender. Go to Shader Editor. Create Image Texture node. Load the created hair texture map to the Image Texture node. Then connect it to Material Output. Next, create Diffuse BSDF node. Create Shader to RGB node. And create Color Ramp node. Connected them one by one like this and press Shift-Control+ left mouse for automatically connected to Material Output. Then changes Color Ramp type to Constant type. Then adjust the color ramp and give it brighter shadow color. Next, create Mix Color node. Connected them like this. Set Mix Color type to Multiply. For better shading color, pick Color Ramp darker color to hair color. Try adjusting them to see if everything is working properly. There's a slight problem with the highlight that being affected as well by the color ramp. But don't worry, I have a solution. Create second Mix Color node and second Image Texture node as well. I just simply create one more texture map with just the highlights on a black solid background and put it on the second Image Texture node. Connect them like this, including the connection to the Material Output node as well. Set Mix Color to Screen Type. Now, the highlight is not affected by any shading. Next, create Principled BSDF node. Connect the Mix Color into Emission slot and adjust the value to make it slightly brighter. Set Roughness to Full 1 value. Create Last 2 node, Hue Saturation node and Brightness Contrast node. Slightly increase saturation and value intensity. Slightly increase bright and contrast intensity as well. Now, let's see if everything looks good and everything is working as it should be. I think this looks great and satisfied enough. As last step, let's add the outline using Scene Line Art. Set line thickness to 5 and reduce the opacity for softer effect, but this is optional. Hit Render button here. Here is the final result. All progress have been showed and explained. Hope this useful for you. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe my channel. Thank you for watching.